everybody. We're here with great bass player Schalk. Schalk, can you tell us what your first musical experience was?
Yeah, the music that was playing in my house, my parents liked the sort of contemporary music of the time, which was probably ABBA. My father liked singers like John Denver. Um, a lot of classical music played in our house, and then I mean, whatever was on TV and on radio. I was glued to my radio as a kid, and that's sort of where my love for different music grew. Obviously you have a friendship circle when the excitement of exchanging tapes, and I had one of these. I think one of the things that opened my eyes, I was one of the first kids to have a double tape deck, and it was very fancy. I think it was a Sony double tape deck, and then a lot of people brought me their music, and they said, "Can you?" And a empty tape, and said, "Can you make me a copy of this?" So I had the opportunity to sit there every afternoon and listen, and a lot of it was the older kids down the road. So they brought all sorts of interesting things to my house, like Led Zeppelin records and Queen records and all these kind of things. That was advanced music for me at that stage, but certainly got certain things sparking.
Can you tell us why the bass guitar? What drew you to the lower notes?
I specifically remember watching on television as a young kid. They broadcasted a Queen concert. I've never been the biggest Queen fan in the world, but although I think they're fantastic. But that concert, there were the two guitars, and I didn't know the difference between a bass or a guitar, but I just heard the one going diddly-diddly-diddly, and the other one went like, something like.
Oh, another one bites the dust.
That was the vibe for me, or like. Although that's not so low, but I mean that specifically that type of grooves. I heard that, and it was the first time I was made aware. Oh, the one goes like that, and the other one goes like that. So, and I think then I started listening out for it.
Can you tell us about your musical education? Did you go for lessons? Did you study? Are you self-taught?
At first, not. I mean, I had a little bit of music lessons in school, basic, not much. And then I sang in choirs, and then I started playing by myself. And and I still believe it's the biggest learning school, is to play with people who are better than you. Play with as many people that are better than you all the time, because that gives you something to strive towards, to measure yourself against. And that got me to very quickly get my stuff together. So I did take lessons for a short while. I took lessons with a great bass player in the Cape, Alistair Andrews, and then I took lessons with Carlo Mombelli, who's a great, wonderful musician. But the majority of it was what I taught myself. The discipline. Actually, any lessons. I mean, nobody can teach you how to play anything. You have to go home and do the work. But what makes teachers great is they just show you maybe a bit more of a focused path. I wish I had teachers at a younger age, because it took me quite a while of just, I mean, for instance, I would just learn everything of a song, for instance, like not just focusing on the bass parts, and I think that's something that counted in my favor later on, understanding, getting a wider range of technique maybe, or understanding the whole of a song, like I would learn pretty much all of it on the bass. So like if there was a Led Zeppelin song, I would play the vocal line and the bass line and the thing, or like I'll play the chords. So I didn't quite know what to do with it, and that sort of became part of my style later on, in any case. I did also study at the University of Stellenbosch. I went to do, it was a diploma course they had, where you just had to catch up on all the theory and learn about arrangement and things like that. And the rest of it was the learning school of diving in the deep end and playing with whoever comes around.
As I spoke to you earlier, like I told her that I have an album. Can you tell us about your album that you released a few years ago, and also the artist that you worked with and recorded on, please?
Okay, yeah. So that album that you're referring to, thank you for the compliment. It's called Kaya Mandi. I lived on a farm very very close to the township called Kayamandi in Stellenbosch. Kayamandi is a isiXhosa word that sort of is kind of ironic because it means something close to home sweet home or sweet home. Um, it's a wonderful place. Obviously, there's a lot of poverty and there's some other socioeconomic problems, you know, but it's also got a very vibrant community. Community I was deeply invested in, and it wasn't just referring to the specific place, but I liked the thing of the home. You know, I was going through a kind of a. You want to find yourself as what's your identity, especially me, somebody of sort of long ago European descent, being an African, you know, and you kind of have this thing the whole time of, on the one hand, you're this orphan of Europe, and on the other hand, you're this adopted child of Africa, and in between there, you know, lies your identity, and how do you say this in the music that you. So that album specifically wasn't so much a bass player's album, you know. I tried it. It was more composition album for me, and the musicians I worked with were all people that I thought would work with the compositions very well. Gloria Bosman, a wonderful singer that I've worked with a lot in my life. Concord Nkabende, great bass player, good friend, you know. We co-wrote some stuff. Naomi Mayanga, who's an incredible artist. Zolani Mahola, it's before Freshy Ground even made it pretty big. And then some great players. Faya Faku was playing on it, Marcus Wyatt, Shannon Mode, Melissa van der Spey, Rob Watson, drummer, Tim Rankin, Barry van Sale was on it. And then even Brayton Breitenbach, the great poet, did a poem on it. So there was Lisa Beekman. I'm leaving people out. You know, it was like one of those, Anton Lamour, a great guitar player. So it was with different people on different songs. And I kind of wanted just to showcase more my mindset rather than being a bass player. I thought that would give me more longevity, you know, in terms of I could go any direction after that. So yeah, it was kind of that. And I think when you work, I've worked with a lot of different people in a lot of different styles, you know. I mean, all the people that I've worked with ranges from Yuma Sekela to American bands like Crash Test Dummies, you know, like, which are very different things. And at some point, you kind of feel like, okay, what is my identity? You know, you learn to adapt to different styles, and you try and approach everything with as much honesty and the correct approach, you know. But somewhere in between, you got to find your own storyline. And I think for that reason, it was healthy to do a solo album. It's to pursue a solo career is much harder, you know. It's still easier for me to predominantly work as like a sideman, but I do enjoy the occasional outing with my own band.
Schalk, can you tell us about the gear that you have?
Well, as you can see, I've got a lot of different bass guitars, and they all serve different functions, you know. The bass I play a lot is this Warwick Dolphin, which is a handmade one. It's a really, really well-balanced. It's an incredible instrument, you know, that is very, very versatile. It's got a specific sound, but it works really well for most studio situations and for live situations. It's got so many different things I can show you. Or whether it's high or low or whatever, you know, it's just everything's perfectly balanced. And if I have to take one bass that can sort of do anything, I'll often take this one. I really love my old sort of vintage type basses, the Fenders, the jazz bass type basses. I like the sound and how they feel. And if it's something if I was going to play a set of standards, you know, or like more blues type gigs, then I often will take them. I've got the Fender Dimension bass, which is a very versatile bass. You don't see a lot of them around. For me, that can serve the function as well of having a more traditional sound, but it's got a bit more punch in the mix. I've got the Ibanez BTB 6-string that I use for more artistic type of gigs. You know, I've got various projects where we play more, let's call it experimental, artistic music in the left field where you can get some different tones and colors and things out of it. Um, the upright bass, I take out on occasion. There are people who are brilliant on it. So whenever people ask me, "Do you play upright?" I generally say, "No, I don't." But but I actually do, and I really enjoy it. And it's that's got its function. So for me, it's all about it's about the function to the specific type of music. I'll choose my instruments according to that. Um, if it's a song that needs a fretless bass, then that's the instrument that I will play. So I believe that every instrument that you pick up makes you play differently. There are certain things that when I pick this instrument up, it makes me want to play that. And if I pick up a jazz bass, it just makes you want to play certain notes. Some things sing beautiful. Some notes, some basses have got nice sustain, like a fretless. You want to hear longer notes, fewer of them. This has got maybe something that punches, you can afford to be doing something different on it. So each instrument has got its own personality. Like each player's got their own personality, and it's the combination of it that really makes the difference. You'll find that any player picks up an instrument, it'll sound different. So it's the way you connect with it. For me, the amps aren't so important. I like the amps that I'm using. The Mark bass amps are incredible, and I've got TC Electronic cabs that just sounds really clean and to the point. But amps, very often you can dial in very much. I think the primary thing is from you to the instrument and how it feels. And the amps I generally like if they don't have too much of a sound themselves. So that's what the Mark bass is really good. It just meets everything up. And sometimes even some of the cheapest amps that I've played, I quite like them because they just sound like your instrument sounds. Not too fancy. I don't.
Schalk, do you have any advice for young up-and-coming bass players and musicians? Practice.
Advice. The one thing that I can say is the joy of music is to make it. I think certainly you can have it as a concert pianist or a solo instrumentalist. In many ways, there's a lot of reward in that. But for me, my biggest award is the people that I've met, the places that I've been. I've played incredible places: Carnegie Hall in New York, Borneo Jazz Festival in a rainforest. Been to Kuruman in South Africa. It took me places where you won't normally go, and meeting people and playing with people, and that is the thing that if you can work hard and play with other people the whole time, it will open up doors and opportunities for you because it's a communication form. It's a way that you can have something to say that no matter where you are in the world, people understand it. If you're in Norway or in Reykjavik or in Abu Dhabi, if you can play and you can respond to other people and listen and so that's when it becomes a thing that can give you a life journey. So I would say, make sure you play with people, back your ego away, learn, Make sure you blend with other people, that you make them sound good. If you make them sound good, you sound good. Ask questions. When I was a young kid, I always used to thought, when I was in a given new situation, I thought, let me just check this out, and then the better the musicians were that I started working with, the more I realized they ask questions. They'll say, stop, what is that? What are you doing there? No, let's do it again. Let me make 100% sure. That way you learn. That way you go, okay, this is what I need to work on, and expose those insecurities or the gaps in knowledge to the other players. Don't go, I must cover this up because maybe they'll see that I've got a bit of a lack of knowledge. Tell them you don't know what it is, They're going to respect you and they're going to show you what it is. And that way you're going to learn. And next time you're there, that gap is closed. So there aren't tiny little gaps in your knowledge. Every time you move on to another, you want to have a solid basis of knowledge. Yeah. So in that sense, this is very long-winded, but anyway, be very honest with yourself. I think the honesty is what will give you a long route. Is like the honesty to understand when you don't know something, to go back, work on that, and in other words, to be a good team player in the end.
Schalk, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for allowing us in your space here. Godspeed on your journey, man. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. It's been a great pleasure.
Thank you so much for liking and sharing this video with your family and friends. Please follow Cape Wood Base on Facebook, Instagram and YouTube. Thank you so much. God bless you.